Hello everyone, it's Chris. We are in North Smithfield, Rhode Island, which is kind of the northern most city or town maybe in the state of Rhode Island. We're fast approaching Massachusetts. Before we get to Massachusetts, I'm going to stop for gas, which I need for our long trip ahead, and I'm going to stop for breakfast at this cool little breakfast place. And then we're going to jump on 146, which runs from Providence, Rhode Island up to Worcester, Massachusetts. It's going to take us to the Massachusetts Turnpike. We're going to follow that all the way across the state of Massachusetts. That is Interstate 90. That eventually becomes part of the New York State Thruway system. We're going to take that all the way back to Niagara Falls for a total ride of about 460 miles. We've done this ride before, you and I. The Spyder has not been home, meaning home in Niagara Falls, for well over a month. You know, we went down on our Florida trip all the way down to Key West, and on the way back, you probably know if you saw the video, we had a mishap with the radiator, so I had to leave the Spyder all by its lonesome self in Jacksonville, Florida, while a dealer did the repair. But I rode it from Jacksonville up to Providence to visit family for Easter. So we are now approaching the village of Slatersville, which is in North Smithfield. It's an old mill village. There are lots of these old mill villages in New England. This one's a cute one. They're all cute, I guess. The old Slatersville mill is converted to, I don't know if it's condos or apartments. But I love this hairpin turn. This is like the village green, and it's got a hairpin turn just because of the terrain, the topography. It's pretty cool. I don't have an ND filter on, so I'm sure that the sun's going to wash out this shot, but I'm going to put it on when we stop for breakfast because it's going to be a bright day. So I'm shooting this video because someone asked me, it was Eddie Shepard, one of our subscribers, if I would do a video on what it's like to tour long distance on the Spyder, because I just completed I've been calling it a 3,000 mile journey, but it's going to end up being, let me go to my odometer right now, odometer B actually. So we're at 3,800 miles now. We're going to, by the time we get back to Niagara Falls, this whole journey will have been about 4,200 miles. So Eddie asked me to do a video on what it's like to tour long distance. Someone else asked me, so I'm gonna have breakfast there, but I'm gonna gas up at this Cumberland Farms right here. Cumberland Farms is kind of a New England, I guess, based chain of convenience stores. Someone else asked me to do a video on what it's like to tour in hot weather, and I'm gonna just combine these two into one video, because while I was down in Key West, while I was riding through the Everglades, it was uncomfortably hot. So I'm going to fuel up. I'm going to fuel up myself for breakfast, and we'll pick it up shortly. Well, that was a great breakfast. Now we're heading home to Niagara Falls. Now, when I said we're close to the Massachusetts border, I meant it. And I don't know exactly, I forgot, like, if it's a mile or two, but it's right up the road here. But in terms of the point of this video, touring long distances with the Spyder, and some of you are probably saying, well, you know, 4,000 miles, I've done, you know, cross-continental journeys, and I guess everything's relative. But for someone who's about to complete 4,000 miles in essentially one trip, now it was broken up by that breakdown in Florida, but I'll just tell you, the Spyder's an excellent touring machine. It just is excellent. It is comfortable. I've never, so the longest one-day ride I've ever done on the Spyder was 525 miles. That was from Jacksonville, Florida to Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina. And when I got to the hotel, and I got a late start that day. I started at almost 10 o'clock when I like to start earlier in the morning. Okay, we're entering Uxbridge. Uxbridge is in Massachusetts, so I don't see a welcome to Massachusetts sign, but We're in Massachusetts. But so I get to the hotel, I don't know, around dinner time. I wasn't at all fatigued. I could have driven much further if I wanted to push it. And I've done multiple trips between Niagara Falls and Providence. Many of them I've, captured on my videos. And none of them, despite the heat, the cold, and when I say the cold, I don't mean I don't do interstate journeys, in freezing temperatures, but like right now it's about 50 degrees, and I've done interstate touring in the 40s when it was raining, and even on those days, I never, at the end of the journey, I never got to my hotel or to my destination and said, oh, I am wiped out. Is it the same as touring in a car? Of course not. You have the canopy protecting you from the sun. You're totally protected from the wind. As good a job as this wonderful canopy of this windshield and the fairing does on this, it's not like being in a car. I do have a cup holder, but if I want to take a drink, I've got to take my helmet off. I can't adjust the climate control. This does have a stereo on it, but quite frankly, it's difficult to figure out compared to almost all automobiles have a very intuitive. And I've done a video on that where okay, so we're now on 146. This is going to head north towards the Massachusetts Turnpike, and we'll get on that and head west. But I've done a video on what I'd like to see Garmin improve in their user interfaces, especially on the instrument display system. It has room for improvement. Whereas most cars, I've been renting cars now that I don't own a car, and most cars you just get in and you know what to do. So I'll pick it up again. We'll talk more about touring in hot weather when we're on the Massachusetts Turnpike heading west back home to Niagara Falls. So we're on the Massachusetts Turnpike. It's a beautiful road, especially when you're going through the Berkshires, and we've done that before on this channel, but it's not quite as beautiful when the trees are bare. But when they pop, and they're gonna pop, I'm shooting this video in late April. They're gonna pop really soon. It's just breathtaking. And then of course in the fall, it's just incredible. But back to touring on the Spyder. So comparing the Spyder to a car is obviously just totally inappropriate. There's no one who's gonna buy a Spyder to go touring the countryside in lieu of doing so on a car. So you really have to compare this to a two-wheel motorcycle, and in doing that, there's just no comparison. So first of all, I should say, some of you know this, I've never had a cruiser type motorcycle. I've never had like a Honda Goldwing or a Harley Davidson, one of those low slung motorcycles with a nice plush seat. I've never had that. I've had adventure, dual sport touring motorcycles. Great to tour with, but not quite as luxurious as some of the more true touring motorcycles are. But having said that, comparing this to the motorcycles that I've had, so first of all, I do like the RT for the high seat relative to like the F3 or certainly the Rikers. I mean, when I sit up on this RT, it's like I'm almost like on an SUV of motorcycles, just like I was with my adventure motorcycles. When I'm side by side with a car, a sedan, in traffic, I look down at that driver. Even a small or mid-sized sport utility vehicle, I'm like level in terms of my eye level. So I like sitting up high like I do on the RT. Those of you who, are used to cruiser motorcycles, you might enjoy the F3 or the Riker better because you sit kind of low slung. It's what you're used to. It's that riding position you're used to. But so on the Spyder, long distance touring, the seat is super, super plush, and I don't have a Sea to Sky. I've got an RT Limited. I've done a whole video on the comparison between the two seats, and I will tell you that the difference between the two is almost imperceptible, for me at least. So I would never buy a Sea to Sky, at least not just for the seat. But so anyway, so the seat is super comfortable. In terms of a passenger, the two-up seat is just incredible. I mean, it's just incredible. And the fact that you're kind of snug in there with the backrest, you've got the hand grips, it's just super incredible. It's just like super comfortable. But you cannot talk about touring on the motorcycle without talking about the floorboards. These 23-inch floorboards, they're very snowmobile-like. And what that means is you kind of take for granted when you're riding a two-wheel motorcycle that when you're in traffic, when you come to a stoplight, when you stop at a rest area, when you stop to get gas, you're putting your feet down. But with the Spyder, or any three-wheel vehicle, even the traditional trikes, not having to put your feet down is a huge thing. You take it for granted when you ride two wheels that that's just part of the deal. But not having to do that is such a luxury, and having these ginormous floorboards to put your feet, forgetting when you stop, even when I'm riding like this, I can move my feet around to multiple position levels. I can put them way back, I can move them far forward. I want to keep my eye on the road here while I'm doing this, but the floorboards are a huge benefit for touring. Not to mention the tremendous protection your foot has from this plastic piece here. And the fairing overall, it protects your legs, your knees. That protection is a huge benefit when you're on the interstate and you're going a long distance in terms of reducing fatigue. I also would be remiss if I didn't mention the backrest. So I bought this not intending to buy a backrest. It's an accessory on this thing. I will tell you that I think Can-Am should add the backrest as kind of a standard option with the Sea to Sky. I think that would give the Sea to Sky just another reason for upgrading from an RT Limited to the Sea to Sky. But when I originally bought this, I kind of thought that the backrest would be almost, I don't know, I don't want to say sissy-like, but I didn't think I would want one or need one or buy one. I don't remember what sparked me to get the backrest. I don't know if it was another YouTube channel that I was watching and they were talking about the backrest. I forgot, it's been a year now. But not long into my Spyder tenure, I went ahead and bought the backrest, and oh my gosh, it's the backrest that makes all the difference on long distance touring. And I never really thought about, you know, when you ride a two-wheel motorcycle, of course you don't have a backrest. Now I say of course, now I'm starting to think why not? But you don't. And the backrest, or I should say the lack of a backrest, when you're riding long distance on a motorcycle, you know, at the end of the day your back hurts. And like, I never really put two and two together. I never thought about it's that lack of a back support that makes it fatiguing. And oh my gosh, so that simple little device sitting at my back makes all the difference. And quite frankly, I don't know, if I didn't have the backrest, I'm not sure that long trip down to Key West and back, almost 4,000 miles so far, would be as comfortable. Obviously, the heated seats, the heated grips are a huge plus, but there are plenty of touring motorcycles that have those. In terms of hot weather riding, so I will say that this fairing that protects you from the elements and the wind and the cold also protects you from the breeze that you would get on a hot weather tour. Now, the adjustable windscreen that I'm lowering right now certainly makes it better in hot weather. But the fairing does, you know, block some of that wind. Now, these adjustable, optional wind deflectors that I don't have, I've got the standard wind deflectors, but there are some that are, I guess, adjustable. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe the Sea to Sky comes with adjustable wind deflectors. But whether they do or not, maybe those adjustable wind deflectors allow you to, you know, adjust it so air blows at you, perhaps. I don't know. And that might be a benefit in terms of hot weather touring. One thing I will say is covering up the engine with all the plastics, you know, you can't see the engine on a Can-Am Spyder, that has to help. My KTM 890 Adventure threw off a lot of heat, especially in traffic when you weren't moving. It was incredible. And that was an 890cc engine. I can only imagine what the KTM 1290 Adventure was like. But this thing does protect you from some of the engine heat in terms of the fairing. One of the other things that I've got to mention when it comes to long distance touring is gas consumption. So when you're on the interstate, as I am now, and the speed limit is 65 and I'm doing 75 or whatever, this thing sucks gas. Like, it drinks heavily. All of the motorcycles I had prior to my purchase of the Spyder got around 50 miles to the gallon. Well, on a good day when it comes to interstate touring, you might get 30, but when I'm doing 75, you know, I'm dropping down now, I'm doing 70, 68, whatever miles per hour. It gets a little better, but 75 plus, it's like in the high 20s, which quite frankly a lot of cars today are doing much better than that. And you have to put premium in this thing. 91, and a lot of places that I get gas, it's 93 is all I have. And I know some of you are going to want to argue that point. Do you really need to put in the premium? The manufacturer recommends it, Rotax recommends it. I'm going to put in the premium. But with my car, I only had to put in 87 octane. And quite frankly, every motorcycle that I had prior to my KTM 890 Adventure, which also asked you to put premium in, but every other one, it was 87 octane. So if you're looking at the monetary aspect of touring on the Spyder compared to a two-wheel motorcycle, or even a car, quite frankly, you know, this is gonna cost you a little more. But we know when we buy a Spyder, like, these are costly toys. The price tag alone says it all. So I can't imagine there are a lot of folks who are gonna buy a Spyder not aware that the cost to maintain it, the cost to fuel it, is going to be higher than their, you know, previous two-wheel motorcycle. So the Massachusetts Turnpike just turned into the Governor Dewey Thruway. We haven't hit the Welcome to New York sign yet, but I believe we probably are in New York State right now. It's a Prius, wow. They look a lot better than they used to. And here we go. Welcome to New York. It's the first time the Spyder's been in New York State in well over a month. And I've got to mention stability in terms of long-term cruising. This is on cruise control right now. We're doing 75 miles per hour, and I'm going to just take my hands off the wheel. I know I've done this countless times on the Spyder to demonstrate how little steering input it needs. I'm going to give it a little nudge there, and it just goes forever, or for a long period of time. You can see, I mean, this isn't safe, right? If I got a blowout right now, that would be bad. If a rabbit were to dart out in front of me, that would be bad. But I just want to demonstrate how smooth and stable the Spyder is. I can't say it enough. So the last thing I'll touch upon when it comes to long distance touring is just the old question of, is the Can-Am Spyder reliable? And my answer to that, and your answer may differ, but my answer is yes, it is. It has these little gremlins that pop up. The suspension faults that I'm still getting now is, you know, an example of that. But it didn't affect the rideability of the Spyder. This thing, even though it has a battery that my dealer told me was only at 70% of its life, and many of you commented, oh, you need to get a new battery before you go on this trip. Here we are 4,000 miles later, no trickle charger for the past over a month. Starts up every time. It's never left me stranded on the side of the road, except, as you know, when I had a punctured radiator. But you know, you can get a punctured radiator with any liquid cooled vehicle, any vehicle with a radiator. It was a fluke. Now what I will say is, Can-Am, you've got to beef up the protection on the radiator. We've got 2 radiators in the front, and those scoops are wide open. I actually went ahead and bought aftermarket screens for my radiators, and I still had that problem. So Can-Am, BRP, we got to do something about that. But I do not consider that a reliability issue. I would plan another long distance journey absolutely without hesitation on this Can-Am Spyder. I am planning a cross-continental. This bridge is so cool. I just love riding over this bridge. And I've seen a train. So this is the Castleton-on-Hudson Bridge over the Hudson River. This is the roadway, but that trestle bridge that you see over there is the train crossing bridge, and I've seen trains cross many times, so I'm hoping we get to see one. I haven't seen one for my YouTube channel, but maybe we'll get lucky today. Oh, please tell me this isn't the whole way. I can see through that screen. I doubt you can with the GoPro. Anyway, I am planning a cross-continental trip, and we're going to see places like Mount Rushmore and Yellowstone and Yosemite and the Badlands and the Pacific Coast Highway, and we're going to do it on the Can-Am Spyder. My problem is that I need at least a month, maybe more, to really do that trip and do it right. And as long as I've got this part-time gig that I've mentioned in the past, I can't get away for that long. But the part-time gig that I have ends on December 31st, and then I'm a free man. I don't think we're going to get to see the train today, and I'm almost glad we're not, because of this construction work. It would ruin the shot anyway. We'll be coming over this bridge again as we visit Rhode Island in the future, and hopefully we'll see a train then. But I wouldn't hesitate to go on that trip tomorrow, if I could, with the Can-Am Spyder. So, you know, the pros on this thing for cross-continental touring, long-distance touring are innumerable. Just so many pros. And the only con, really, is just the cost. And you know that going into it, so it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. So now we're going to jump on 87 briefly to the north towards Albany, then back on 90. It's all part of the New York State Thruway system. And we basically take 90 all the way home to Niagara Falls. The 90 gets me to within, you know, a few short miles. I jump on the 190. The 190 takes me to within 2 miles of home, and we'll be there in a few hours. If you like this video, I sure would appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. If you have any comments on anything related to touring on the Spyder or anything else we talked about, please comment. If you're one of the many people who watch the videos but don't subscribe, if you would finally hit subscribe and hit that notification button, I sure would appreciate it. And until the next video, which will probably be about the second service of the Spyder. I shouldn't say the second, because there's the 3,000 mile service, we've had that. Then there's the 9,000 miles. So really the third service, but the second full service. Until that video, which will probably be the next video, until then, you have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.